So leo Nakumicha amefika mbele ya Senate kujibu maswali kuhusu mgomo ambayo inaendelea sasa hivi ya madaktari. Tumepiga story hapo nyuma ikawa na kuelezea madhara ya madaktari kugoma, mpaka nikakwambia kwamba sasa hivi hata kwenye sehemu za kuhifadhi miili wanapata shida sana, kwa sababu miili ni kibao inaletwa pale, watu wanafariki na idadi ya watu ambao wanapoteza maisha yao ni kubwa kabisa. And serikali kwa upande wao inaonekana sio kitu ambacho kinawashangaza. Kwa hiyo sijajua kama hawajatembea wajionee, au labda wao wana assume kwamba everything is okay or everything is normal kama kawaida. But kitu kimoja ambacho wanatakiwa kuelewa na kujua ni kwamba sasa hivi ni kubaya zaidi, watu wanafariki. And kama madaktari wataendelea kufanya mgomo, mimi naamini tutapoteza watu wengi sana. So nimekuja hapa na recap kidogo, na hapa nitakupa nafasi uzitazame videos, na miongoni mwa watu ambao walitupa mawe nyingi sana kwa Nakumicha ni pamoja na Sifuna. Kila mtu anamfahamu, ni miongoni mwa watu ambao kwenye maswali utapokea uliza Sakaja ni kwa nini sometimes analenga vikao vya Senate, kwa sababu anajua kule maswali mara nyingi huwa kibao sana. Achana na Citizen TV na wapi huko ataenda nini atapambana nao, lakini when it comes to Sifuna, Sakaja anajua vizuri sana. So Nakumicha pia alijipata sehemu pabaya sana leo hii kujibu maswali kadha wa kadha, lakini kuna kitu kimoja ambacho nimekuja kugundua. Ruto anaambia hawa mawaziri wake fanyeni hivi, lakini kikiumana anawatuma huko kwenye Senate kwenda kuulizwa maswali. Sasa mimi kitu kimoja ambacho huwa najiuliza, okay, maswali huwa ni ya nini? Kwa sababu hata kule wanapoenda huwa wakishafika pale hakuna kitu kingine ambacho kinafanyika, ni stories tu. Ilikuwa ni mtu ambaye anakaa chini anajua ni nini nitaulizwa, and at the end of the day inaisha. Sisi kama wananchi wa kawaida hatujapata suluhisho. Unajua sisi tunahitaji suluhisho, hatutaki kusikia nini. Sisi kama wananchi tunafahamu kwamba madaktari wamegoma, serikali haitaki kuwalipa hela na kitu kama hiko. There is nothing else. So I think sitaki nizungumze mambo mengi sana ambayo yalitokea kule Senate. Nikupe nafasi tu ujisikilizie na utazame namna ambavyo alijipata sehemu pabaya sana Nakumicha. And safari ya madaktari sijajua itakuwaje, kwa sababu wameamua hawawezi wakafanya kitu, mtazamaji wangu. Kwa hiyo tazama video hizi hapa mwanzo mwisho, na ukimaliza hakikisha kwamba una subscribe kwa ajili ya kuendelea kupata taarifa nyingi na mpya kila wakati. Sifuna na Omtata.
As I said in the morning, I was deeply embarrassed by the fact that we had opportunity to put serious questions to the cabinet secretary responsible for health this morning. But in my view, we squandered that opportunity, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, that point was demonstrated later in the afternoon when the very senator for Embu, Senator Mundigi, then comes up in the afternoon with a question to the Committee of Health that he should have directed to the CS of Health, but instead wasted time massaging the CS for Health. Mr. Speaker, it is the position that on the 27th of March, the delegation of government walked out of a negotiation with the doctors. Mr. Speaker, since the 27th of March, there has been no further meeting between the ministry and the doctors, because the ministry insists that the doctors must give up that one right that they have to enforce their rights, Mr. Speaker, the right to go to strike or to go on strike, so that a conversation can be had. Mr. Speaker, as Senator Muma has said, the government today must understand that CBS do not expire. Collective bargaining agreements do not expire unless and until a new one is registered in the Labor and Employment Code. Mr. Speaker, when a government comes in and finds an agreement in place, it is the responsibility of that government to honor those agreements. In fact, in the morning, you heard the CS for Defense, Mr. Speaker, saying that he continued with the work at Uhuru Park because he found that arrangement in place, even though he himself admitted that he knows that was an illegal move. So the illegal ones, this government is very happy to continue with them. But the ones that make sense, the legal ones registered even in accordance with the law, those ones they decide that they are not going to execute. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to request or ask the CS for Health in the morning whether she understands and whether the government understands the sanctity of a CBA. It is an agreement that you have entered into on your own volition. Nobody has forced you. And once you sign a document, Mr. Speaker, the law is that you cannot run away from agreements you have gotten into yourself. That is why some communities, Mr. Speaker, don't believe in divorce. That once you have paid dowry, you remain. And I think that is something that your friend, the CS for Agriculture, understands very well. Mr. Speaker, there is also something I heard from government that really broke my heart. That in fact, an IG of police, who I have said publicly, I have serious doubts as to his capacity to hold public office. Because, Mr. Speaker, he does not seem to understand the Bill of Rights, that in fact people have the right to freely assemble. I have been seeing doctors in the streets. Mr. Speaker, they come there dressed in their white coats. They don't look threatening at all. But when an IG of police says that he's going to bludgeon doctors who are on strike, Mr. Speaker, this is somebody who has no idea what he's doing in the office of Inspector General of Police. Then you have a ministry saying that they are aware that the civil protests, Mr. Speaker, are being sponsored by cartels. And they are the ones financing this industrial action. I would have loved for the CS to tell us, to name before this House, who are these cartels that are financing and encouraging industrial action. The industrial action stems from the lack of respect for agreements that have been entered into by government and the doctors. Mr. Speaker, I also heard her in the morning saying that, these doctors must respect court orders. I wanted to know from the CS, where does she get the moral authority? Where does she get the moral authority to lecture anyone about respect for court orders? Mr. Speaker, is in this same government that told us that those court orders don't have to be respected. I heard the president himself speaking on the Ihith and Ndunyunjeru Road, where the Environment and Land Court has said you cannot build a road through the Abadeas. He instructed a PS, I saw it myself with my own eyes, saying, wewe jenga hii barabara. Why can't he do the same? Because, Mr. Speaker, it is government that sets the pace for respect of court orders. So they have no moral authority to tell doctors that until and unless Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the second thing I am doing. So, therefore, Mr. Speaker, nothing stops the CS. Nothing stops the officials in the ministry. And I met them outside the corridor and I told them they have embarrassed themselves in the ministry today. All they need to do, they can have informal meetings with doctors. Sometimes these things are resolved not in formal settings where you are using all this tough language and you want to show us. And I've heard the president today say, Mr. Speaker, that if you're supporting doctors, you pay them with your money. I want to remind him, the money that pays doctors, the money that pays him is not his money. We support doctors. We want our taxes to be used to pay doctors. I second, Mr. Speaker.
Your time is up, Senator. So, Senator Okoit Andrew Mutata.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support the motion, and I begin off by saying that it's an unfortunate situation that's happening in our country, and we also have we also had a similar situation happening in the UK. If you followed the news, they had a doctor strike, both the so-called junior doctors and the senior doctors, or what we call consultants here. They've had their own way of resolving. In this country, I think we need to sober up in terms of public expenditure. Before we address the question of saying that we cannot pay, we need to sober up and get our priorities right. And I think that this government can pay doctors, and even the past government could pay doctors if they disciplined the budget, if they eliminated corruption and wastefulness. Right now we have got a cabinet which is competing to show off the kind of watches they can wear, and we are told some go up to 30 million. We see people spending money like there's no problem. So when they come to say that there's no money to pay, how do you justify the push to recruit some CSS who have got no work to do according to the constitutional structure, but must come there? So the question of pay, I think, needs to be looked at. We need to rationalize how we use public funds. Number two, regarding the doctors issue, I would like to go back to the constitution, the review-making process. The doctors and the prison officers and the teachers and the judiciary and even parliament, for whatever reasons, pushed for commissions to take care of their interests, the human resource interests. Teachers got it, the judiciary got it, parliament got it. Then I have the report of the committee of experts. There was an undertaking that was made that they would set up a national health commission. A national health commission to address the question of the pay of doctors, or to address the question of the people who are employed in the health sector. I think time has come for us to consider delivering on that promise or not. Let us form a national mechanism for hiring and rotating doctors. Because right now, when the doctors go to the counties, the chances for growth are not there, chances for study are not there, chances to do it are not there. It's just like you are consigning them to what some people call kaburi la sahau. So we need to do that. The other thing, we need to interrogate the Constitution very well. In the fourth schedule, did the people of Kenya really devolve health? And if they did they devolve both primary and secondary health? I think the fourth schedule, for me, when I read it, I find that it was primary health that was devolved, while the counties were charged with the duty of preventing people from falling sick. But once somebody fell sick, the national government would take over. Because what was devolved, what was retained at the national government is something called national health referral facilities. When we devolved, we considered them to be national hospitals or centers of excellence in Kenyatta and Moi referral. We forgot that some of those centers of excellence were like Mathare, level 4, but were centers of excellence in terms of mental health. The spinal cord injury hospital is only is a national hospital, but it's a level 4 hospital for a center of excellence. In Alupe, you have got the center of excellence in Busia for
Senator, 1 minute, one more minute.
Thank you very much. So we need to go back and look at the architecture that the people of Kenya gave in terms of devolving or not devolving the health sector. And then we also need to make sure that the money follows what is devolved. Right now, I would expect the minister to come and tell us that this is the percentage of the budget for health, and this is what goes to counties. Because if you look at the bulk of the money remains in Nairobi, and that one cannot be accepted. We need to make sure that the money goes on the ground and the health facilities are viable and operational. As to the people who are dying because of the strike, the government should know that it can be sued for the duty of care and negligence. And they should not take this lightly. We might have to take the data of people who have died and to sue the government for compensation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Time up. Senator Betty Monteith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance to also add my voice to this very important motion brought by Senator Muma. Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate